What's up guys? Before we get into what might be a troubling video for physical media fans, if you're new to the channel and love audio and video gear, then tap the subscribe button for new weekly videos. So it's come to my attention that a good majority of you absolutely despise the very existence of this machine. I'm not sure if it's the fact that it doesn't play physical discs or the fact that it costs $8,000. Yes, the price went up since I last posted that unboxing video. Something about those tariffs. There was a fair amount of you that let your opinions loose in the comment section. Well, what we're gonna do in this video is go through the setup and we'll see how it stacks up against the best way to watch a movie, 4K Blu-rays. Now, before we get into all that, let's take a closer look at the hardware. The Strato S is a hefty little piece weighing 8.6 pounds. It's your standard 17 inches wide by 1.6 inches high by 10 inches deep. Around back, we have connections for AC power in and HDMI out, optical, coax, and HDMI audio outputs, USB, LAN, and an IR in and a service port. For setup, I'll be hooking this up in my home theater using the Emotiva RMC1 into my Sony 695 ES projector paired with a Stewart film screen matte white CinemaScope screen. When you first power it on, you'll have to make an account and sign into your network. After that, you can jump into the settings. Here we have a timeout option and an option to put it in standby or to power down completely. Next is Wi-Fi setup and your network info. Here you can assign a custom name to it. Here you can choose your language. You can assign a password and some parental controls if you've got kids. For advanced, you have some custom installer settings if you're using touch panels and a masking system. You can reposition subtitles if you're using automatic masking on a projector setup. And here's your time zone setting. I should probably change mine to Eastern. We've got some cover art settings which we'll get to in a bit. This is a section for some calibration videos that you can download for free. And in this section, you can access more advanced player settings by using the web interface. When you go into the specified web address, you'll get this screen here. For video capabilities, it'll show you what your display is capable of handling. It's kind of like what Xbox does if you've got one of those. For video behavior, I chose to allow display mode changes since I use an anamorphic lens. If you check this option, the video will scale automatically and fit the size of your screen. So no matter what's playing, whether it's a movie or the menus, the player will do the scaling so you don't have to manually zoom in or out yourself. It's a very cool feature. This stuff here is pretty self-explanatory. For aspect ratio, just choose how your setup is configured. Under Advanced, you've got some more very specific options you can play around with, or you can just leave it on auto. For audio settings, this will show you everything your receiver or processor can decode. It's the same thing as the video settings. If you're doing Atmos or DTS-X, be sure you keep this on bitstream. And then you have your network information and control settings if you've got a custom control setup, which I don't. Alright, now real quick, let's just take a peek at the Kaleidescape store. It's pretty much like any other store. You can click on a title and you'll get all the related info and the price, etc. New releases come out usually 2 weeks before the physical disc goes on sale. This is the same way it works for digital streaming too, where the Vudu or the iTunes version goes on sale first. Except here, you get the full quality instead of a compressed stream. Okay, now let's go to the home screen. You can see here everything is alphabetized. But if you want, you can go back into the settings and under browsing cover art, if you select group similar movies, when you go back, you can see La La Land is now followed by musicals. If we pick Hacksaw Ridge, it's kinda surrounded by action movies. I'm not sure what A Star Is Born is doing next to it though. Here we go. Avengers is surrounded by action movies. If you click on the movie, you can see that it's HDR. There's no Dolby Vision yet, but it might be coming in a different iteration. But if you're using this on a projector, then it doesn't matter anyways. You'll see here that you get a synopsis and all the usual stuff. Alright, now let's do a little comparison and see how this stacks up against a 4K Blu-ray. We'll take a look at the opening credit to John Wick 2. Now keep your eyes on the light transitions here. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good looking. Now for the 4K disc. It's not bad either, but you can still see the obvious banding. And this looks pretty good too. Obviously, we're looking at how well the compression is. Here's a little slow motion side by side. The Blu-ray kinda looks better in this clip, but it's very different in person. Up close, you can see how dithered the Kaleidescape looks here, so you don't really get the obvious banding between each shade of color. This is a tough one to call, but in person, in this particular shot at least, there's some really distinct bands of color here. I just don't think my camera has enough dynamic range to pick it up. The Blu-ray does look kind of better in this clip, but in person, it's very different. Okay, let's check out Lucy. We're going to be taking a look at that bright pillar right behind Scarlett, and keep an eye on her face too. Now here's a closer angle. Keep a look on this bright area right here. If we take a look at it frozen, I think the banding is easier to see here. It's just a lot smoother and less distracting on the Kaleidescape. On a larger screen, these little things really do pop out. Now here's a close-up of Scarlett's face. In person, the Kaleidescape looks a bit crisper. Her hair looks a tad bit cleaner, and her chin has a bit more detail, and just the overall look is a little sharper. And let's just check out one more, Fury Road. We're going to be taking a look at this gray cloud right here. This is the Kaleidescape first again. Now the 4K disc. Looks just as good, right? Okay, now side by side, I think you can see the Kaleidescape looks a bit off. It definitely looks more compressed than this. You can see where the color jumps from one shade to the other. The 4K disc is just smoother. This was the first thing that my eye was drawn to when I first saw the Kaleidescape version. Oh, and I also didn't have any picture processing turned on like smooth gradation on the Sony. So, what'd you guys think? Now there's a misconception the Kaleidescape is a streaming player like an Apple TV or a Roku. This is not a streaming player. When you purchase a movie from the Kaleidescape store, the entire movie will get downloaded onto the player's internal storage. You can buy movies in DVD, Blu-ray, or 4K Blu-ray quality. And notice how I said quality. You're not downloading an actual ripped copy of the physical disc. How it works is the studios have their own master files of each movie, and they transfer the movie on a physical Blu-ray disc, the kind that you would buy in a store. As we all know, whether it's a DVD, a Blu-ray, or 4K Blu-ray, these discs do have limitations as far as disk capacity is concerned, meaning they can only hold so much information. So in the case of a 4K Blu-ray, that disc will have a max limit of 100 gigs. It's the studio's job to make that master file fit within a 100 gig limit. And a lot of times studios won't use the largest disc available. They could opt to use a 66 gig disc or the 100 gig size. Also keep in mind, it's not only the movie that's on there, there might also be extras included as well that might eat into the available space. Now in the case of Kaleidescape, they get the same master file to the movie and they themselves do their own authoring and compress the original file down for downloading. So for instance, if a 4K movie was, let's say, 4 hours long, you'd have to do some heavy compression to make it fit on a 100 gig Blu-ray. Kaleidescape, however, doesn't have a limitation of 100 gigs. So in theory, they could use less compression and just, let's say, make a 120 gig or bigger file. Less compression would lead to less video degradation. Again, the idea here is by investing in a Kaleidescape, you'll either be getting as good or, in theory, the possibility of higher than physical media quality. And as far as audio, you'll get the same lossless tracks whether it's Dolby Atmos or DTS:X. So your audio should sound exactly the same. It's the video that could look different. As we saw in the comparison shots, there was never a definitive winner. Some look better on one than on the other. I guess it's a combination of size and how well the encode is on that particular movie. But with my time with the Kaleidescape, I will give the slight nod to it as most of the movies I saw did look a little better using it. It wasn't every single title that looked better, but it was a large majority. I don't think the $8,000 asking price is worth the upcharge to get a slightly better image, but I do get why it costs so much. They do have to pay the studios to offer this type of quality available for downloading, and they're the only player in town that can do this. BitTorrent does not count. I know someone is going to drop their 2 cents in on that. They've also got one of the best user interfaces on the market and a ton of options for custom installs and expandability. Here's the thing, this player isn't for everyone. It's for the person with a dedicated high-end system that wants the highest quality audio and video that's simple to use for everyone. You could go the do-it-yourself route and come up with something similar like Kodi or Plex or something else. But then you're talking about ripping, transcoding, encoding, setting up NAS drives, and trying to get it all to work with your remote control and the rest of your people in your household. So for those folks with the extra spare change, they might not want to go out and do all that stuff. That's why the system exists. If another company were to come along and offer the same type of experience, then we might see prices come down as it would be competition. But Kaleidescape's been in the game the longest without any challengers, hence it's pretty pricey. Now, if you guys have any questions on picking this up, just contact our friend Robert at Value Electronics. Tell him we sent you, and they'll give you some special treatment. So tell me your thoughts on the Kaleidescape system. Do you like the idea, or does it just cost too much? Well, thanks for checking out the video. If you want, you can find us on social media, and if you want to support the channel, then stop by our Patreon page. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys again in the next one.